It's 3:15 a.m. at Fairchild Air Force Base, Washington. The air is so cold it feels like someone is pressing a frozen razor blade against your windpipe. You haven't slept more than 4 hours a day in 3 weeks, and your blood is currently 70% gas station caffeine and 30% pure, unadulterated spite. Welcome to the world of a SERE Instructor: survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. Most people think our job is just teaching Boy Scouts how to start a fire with 2 sticks and a dream. That's the S part. The R part, the resistance, that's where the nightmares live. That's where I get paid to be the most hated man in the Department of Defense. Look at your hands. They're permanently stained with pine sap and the kind of dirt that doesn't wash off with soap. You're standing in a damp, dark hallway outside what we call the resistance lab. To the outside world, it's a controlled environment. To the students inside, pilots, special ops, high-value assets, it's a living hell where time doesn't exist. Your job is to be the monster in their closet, so that when they get shot down behind enemy lines in a place that doesn't show up on Google Maps, they don't break. You're the vaccine against the plague of human cruelty, and like any vaccine, you have to be a little bit toxic to work. My routine isn't coffee and emails. My routine is checking the restraints on a mock prisoner of war cage and rehearsing the interrogator persona. We don't just yell, we dismantle souls. You walk into a room where a 24-year-old fighter pilot, a guy who usually flies a $100 million jet with a cocky grin, is now shivering in a jumpsuit, covered in his own sweat and fear. He's been blindfolded for 6 hours. Loud, distorted white noise has been blasting at him from speakers he can't see. This is the code black of the soul. He thinks he's ready. He's been through the best training in the world, but he hasn't met me yet. I'm the guy who's going to take everything he loves, his family, his country, his dignity, and use it as a pry bar to crack his skull open. And the worst part? I'm doing it because I care about him. If he breaks for me, he gets a debrief and a hot meal. If he breaks for the real enemy, he gets a shallow grave. The irony of being a SERE instructor is that you have to love your students enough to make them wish they were dead. You're a professional predator. You spend your days tracking human beings through the woods like they're deer, and your nights psychologically waterboarding them in a windowless room. People ask me how I sleep at night. I tell them I don't. I just wait for the sun to come up so I can go back to the woods. Survival isn't about being tough, it's about being stubborn. It's about being the guy who refuses to die out of sheer annoyance. In the civilian world, stress is a deadline or a slow Wi-Fi connection. In my world, stress is trying to remember the 5 levels of resistance while a simulated enemy is screaming in a language you don't understand, and your stomach is screaming because the only thing you've eaten in 48 hours is a handful of pine needles and a very confused squirrel.
You want to wear the sage green beret? You want to be the guy who teaches the elite how to survive the unsurvivable? Good luck. The SERE Specialist training pipeline is a meat grinder designed to spit out anyone who has even a flicker of quit in their eyes. It starts at Lackland, and if you think basic training was hard, you're in for a violent awakening. They call it the riddle in the dark. It's 6 months of physical and mental demolition. The attrition rate is a beautiful, terrifying 50 to 80%. Most people wash out in the first month. Why? Because we don't just test your muscles, we test your biology. We take you to the mountains, we take you to the swamps, we take you to the desert. We make you ruck 30 miles with 80 pounds on your back. Then we tell you to catch your own dinner. And no, there's no Whole Foods in the Cascades. You learn the nutritional value of grubs. You learn how to skin a rabbit with a sharpened piece of rock. You learn that edible is a very subjective term when you're starving. But the S part is the easy part. Any idiot can learn to build a lean-to. The real training, the part that turns your hair gray before you're 30, is the psychology of captivity. You spend weeks in the classroom learning about the Geneva Convention, only to spend the next months learning how people ignore it. You learn how to be a professional victim first. You go through the resistance lab yourself. You have to feel the isolation. You have to hear the screams. You have to reach the point where you don't remember your own middle name. Only then, after you've been broken and glued back together, do they teach you how to be the interrogator. You learn the 4 pillars of captivity: fear, filth, fatigue, and food deprivation. You learn how to use silence as a weapon. Most people can't handle 10 minutes of absolute silence before they start talking just to fill the void. We teach you how to sit there for an hour, staring at a student, saying nothing, until they start confessing things they haven't even done yet. You learn the interrogation personas, the screamer, the best friend, the cold professional. You're an actor in the most dangerous play on earth. And then there's the evasion phase. This is the ultimate game of hide and seek, but if you lose, you get tackled by 200-pound enemy soldiers and thrown into a van. We teach you how to move through the brush without snapping a twig. We teach you how to read the stars like a GPS. We teach you dead reckoning, navigating by nothing but your own footsteps and a compass. You learn to live in the shadows. You learn to be a ghost. But here's the kicker. After 6 months of this, when you finally earn that beret, you aren't a hero, you're a teacher. You go from being the hunted to being the one who creates the hunters. You have to maintain a level of physical fitness that would make an Olympic athlete cry, all while maintaining the mental stability of a Zen monk. Because if you lose your temper in the lab, you aren't an instructor anymore, you're just a bully. And bullies don't save lives. Specialists do.
It's the final night of a 72-hour evasion exercise. The students, a group of F-16 pilots, have been behind enemy lines for 3 days. They're cold, they're wet, and they're miserable. This is the moment of the capture. We roll in with the trucks, the sirens, and the blank-firing weapons. The chaos is intentional. We want their adrenaline to spike so high they can't think straight. We tackle them, bag their heads, and throw them into the black site. Now the real work begins. I'm in the interrogation room. My persona tonight is the director. I'm calm, I'm polite, I'm terrifying. On the other side of the table is a captain. He's a hero. He's got medals. Right now, he's crying. Not because he's a coward, but because his brain is being hijacked by 100 hours of no sleep and a constant loop of baby crying sounds playing in his ears. "Captain," I say, my voice a whisper, "your wingman already talked. He said you were the one who gave the order. Why lie? Just sign the paper. We give you water, we give you a blanket, we let you sleep." This is the big chicken dinner threat. The fear of a dishonorable discharge or betraying your country. I'm using every psychological trick in the book. I'm looking for the 5 levels of resistance. Is he at level 1, just being a gray man, or is he at level 5, actively fighting back? I push, I lean in. I can smell the fear on him. It's a sharp, metallic scent. Suddenly, the captain snaps. He screams a string of profanities and spits at me. In the real world, I'd be proud of him. That's a hard resistance move. But in the persona, I have to punish it. I signal the guards. They pick him up and put him in a stress position, kneeling, arms out, for an hour. It's not torture by legal standards, but it's pure agony for a body that's already failing. I watch him through the one-way glass. This is the part of the job that never gets easier. You're watching a good man, a patriot, crumble. You see the moment the light goes out in his eyes, the moment he realizes he's not a superhero. He's just a human being made of meat and nerves. And that's the most important lesson I can teach him. Because if he knows he can break, he can learn how to slow down the breaking process. He can learn how to give inaccurate information instead of no information. 4 hours later, the exercise is over. I walk back into the room. The director is gone. I'm just a guy in a green beret with a cup of lukewarm coffee. I help him up. I give him a bottle of water. "You did okay, Captain," I say. My voice is raspy from the cold. "You broke at the 3-hour mark. That's 2 hours longer than last time. Next time, we aim for 5. He looks at me with a mix of hatred and pure, profound gratitude. He knows that tonight I took him to the edge of the abyss and showed him what it looks like. He knows that if he ever finds himself in a real cell, in a real war, he'll hear my voice in the back of his head telling him to take one more breath, to resist one more minute. I walk out of the lab as the sun starts to bleed over the horizon. My back hurts, my eyes feel like they're full of sand, and I have to go debrief 20 more students before I can even think about a nap. This is the graveyard shift of the human spirit.
I am the man who teaches you to lose everything and still keep your soul. I am the SERE Instructor. And tomorrow, we do it all over again. Survival isn't a destination, it's a habit. And I'm the guy who makes it hurt until it sticks. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a date with a very large cup of black coffee and a very small squirrel. Stay frosty, don't get caught, and if you do, remember what I taught you.